Good afternoon, Mr. Nelson. How are you?
Good afternoon, Charles. I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. I've just enabled screen sharing, so I think you can already start sharing your screen, and then when you're ready to start, we can start like previously agreed.
Great, no problem. Thank you. I take it you can see my screen, Charles.
Yes, no, I can.
Perfect.
All right. You know, we can start, Mr. Nelson.
Okay, great, wonderful. Let's get going. Well, thank you very much for having us this afternoon. Give me 1 second, let me just do one more thing here. Yes, today we are looking at setting and pursuing financial goals. And every single person that handles money definitely has to think about what their money is doing for them. It is very easy for money to come in and sort of disappear in your life, even as you're getting older and older. In my experience as a financial planner, I've seen a lot of people who have worked very hard for many, many years, earning a lot of money, and at the end, they have very little to show for it. And as a financial planner, our job is really to try to help people to structure their finances in such a way that not only do their finances or their money help them today, but their money is the one thing that also needs to help you tomorrow. And even the day after tomorrow, that is, the day after tomorrow is after you have passed and you still have descendants that are dependent on you. That is the day after tomorrow. So in allegorically speaking, is your money must help you today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow, and all that takes you plenty. And the way you have to think about it is that you don't earn money tomorrow, you earn money today. So tomorrow's money must come from today's money. And so when you set financial goals, you are basically working with what you have today to make it work today and to make it work tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. So today's presentation is to try to help us understand the importance of setting financial goals, and not only the importance of setting financial goals, but also the importance of us being able to make sure that those goals are fulfilled. So let me see if okay, great. I want to make sure that my screen can move. So the agenda today is to look at the importance of financial goals, to look at primary goals, which is how to live our lives today. And then of course, secondary goals, which is tomorrow, areas of growth and things we need to think about tomorrow. And we're going to look at the timeline, how we get there from here. And of course, we're going to do a quick summary after that to make sure that we understood what we shall have spoken about today. So, importance of goals. The first thing that I want to point out is that sometimes we in all of our lives, we set goals, right? We are where we are today because we set certain goals to help us achieve where we are at. If you set a goal to get a degree or to go, get something, that it's a goal that might take a number of years for you to fulfill, especially those of you here who are doctors. You know that you didn't wake up one day and say, I want to be a doctor, and boom, push, you were a doctor. It took years for you to arrive there, but it's a goal that you stayed focused on until you reach that goal. And all of us who have ever achieved any kind of goal in terms of education or anything, it is a thing that you must remember that it's going to take time. So let me share with you a study that I looked at some time ago. Actually, I got it from a book by Brian Tracy, who was looking at this particular study done by Harvard Business School. And he says that Harvard Business School carried out a research on its own students 10 years after graduation. So he wants to basically, from graduation, they follow them, 10 years later, they look and say, what has happened in the past 10 years? And this is what they have found about their own students. It's a bit of an old study, but I'm sure recent studies can show that these things sort of tend to be the same. They found that 27% of them needed financial assistance, and 60% of them were living paycheck to paycheck. And we'll explain what that means in a moment. But then 10% were living comfortably, and only 3% were financially independent. I think I have mentioned before in this platform that to be financially independent and to retire early means a lot of your money must be saved today so that you can be able to tomorrow retire, because you cannot retire until you are financially independent. So 27% of Harvard graduates 10 years after graduation had they needed financial assistance. And what is a financial assistance? It's either dependence on loans or dependence on exactly that, getting other people to help you just to survive, even though you have that. Now, you had many stories of people with double masters in this or that, but still needing financial assistance. Now, 60% is sort of the norm, is what people do, living paycheck to paycheck. What that basically means is your life today depends on today's paycheck. The question is, if that paycheck does not show up, what happens to your life right here, right now? What happens to your mortgage? What happens to your children's education? What happens to your car payment? What happens to so many things if every single thing is absolutely dependent on what is going on with your paycheck right here? Now, living comfortably, 10% is those that are able to actually have enough money saved up that they can be able to not just survive, because paycheck to paycheck is like a survivor. So this is the study. And when they did a correlation of the study in terms of goals, and they figured out this is 27%, this is 60%, 10%, 3%, how they live their lives today correlate with the kind of goals that they have set. This is what they have found. They found that the 27% that needed financial assistance had absolutely no goal-setting processes in their lives. Money came and money went. Money came and money went. Where there's no goals, there's no There's no thinking about tomorrow. There's no thinking about what happens next month or next year or whatever. It is the money that I'm earning today, I spend today. Unfortunately, life doesn't quite function like that. If you live like that, you're going to end up needing financial assistance. Now, the 60% had basic survival goals like how to make it to month end. Now, that is sort of how a majority of people live. It's like, their goal is, I need to get paid at the end of this month. And when they get paid at the end of the month, they celebrate because they have reached their goal. And we see it in all of our cities. We see it, at month end, people all over the city going up and down, trying to spend their money because they have reached their goals. They're celebrating the goal. What was the goal? To get paid. So 60% who are living paycheck to paycheck are people who are always celebrating the paycheck at the end of the month because that's really all they were looking forward to. Now, the 10% had general goals and thought they knew where they would be in the next 5 years. So you see that to reach financial comfort, okay? If you look back here, 10% were living comfortably. To reach that kind of comfort, you have to have at minimum goals. Where am I going to be in the next 5 years? And start putting money aside. You see, if you live paycheck to paycheck, here's the fact. You don't control what the Reserve Bank or the Bank of Botswana is going to do in terms of interest rates. I have met many people who said when the recent rise in interest rates that the central bank has been doing, people who had budgeted a mortgage of, say, 10,000, and for the past 3 cycles that the Bank of Botswana has been raising interest rates, they have found that their mortgages required an additional 2,000, which they didn't have, which they have to take from somewhere else to bring it to the mortgage, because the mortgage is a big thing. So if you don't have any room to play, when things change, things that you have no control over, take over, then your life falls apart. If you don't really think about the next 3 or 5 years and you just say, here's my check, I'm spending it now, this month I've paid my mortgage. But you don't know whether the central bank is going to increase their interest rates next month or not. And you don't even know what the inflation is going to be like. I mean, we've come from inflation rates of about 6% to where we were sitting at 12%. I think we are down maybe to 9% right now. But such things as these require a person to think, if I have money today, I cannot live as if there is no tomorrow. So goals is about apportioning today's money, not just for today's responsibilities, but apportioning it also to tomorrow's responsibilities. Now, it says 3% had written down goals and set and steps to achieve those goals. To be financially independent, according to this study over here, these 3% that were financially independent, the only way to get there is to achieve those goals. If you don't do that, it is a fact. You are going to fall back into the paycheck to paycheck existence. It says here, my internet is unstable, so let me see if I can switch off some of my other devices here to try to give myself a little space. Let me see. Okay, so we move on. So I hope that we all see how important goals are. You have to set them. You have to think about tomorrow. You can't just say, this is my money today, this is what I'm going to do. Now, when we move to primary goals, the present life, how am I going to live today? How do I look? What do I eat? Of course, that requires goals as well, to say, this is my life right here, right now, and this is how I want to achieve it. So let's look at the funding model. How do we fund such a thing as today? One of the important things is your housing plan, okay? You need to think about where you're going to live. You need to think about a place where your children are going to call home, right? So when you think about a house, it is present. You need it now, not tomorrow. Of course, it may be your rental, which you need now, or your mortgage, which you need now. And so you need to start thinking to build or to buy. That is a plan you need to think about. That is about setting goals. So if you think about building or buying, think about time and resources. You're going to have to allocate time and resources to that particular goal. If you have children or plan to have children, you cannot dodge this present important model or a goal, which is funding the education of your children or even your own. Okay, you need some of those plans yourself, right? Primary education, secondary education, tertiary education, these things are going to happen. If you have children or plan to have children, you cannot dodge this, and you can't continue with a month-to-month existence. You're gonna have to think about, if my child is in primary today, how long before they get to secondary, and what will the cost of education be in secondary? How long before they get to tertiary, and what will the cost of education be in tertiary? Will my income keep up with the cost of inflation or the cost of education? If not, then you need to start sending money to the future. The present, the cars, the furniture, the lifestyle, the emergencies, these things are going to happen to you right here, right now. Okay, how much money do you want to direct to these things? It's important for you to think about those things. But then it's also important to think about those things that we say they belong to tomorrow. Your investment portfolio. What are you doing in terms of trying to build a great investment portfolio? What are you doing about finding the future in terms of your retirement, your investment portfolio, your legacy assets? All of these things are asking for or demanding something from your salary today. They want something from you today. You earn your salary, or you earn your income with today's energy. You work, you make the money, and now you need to start thinking about all these 5 things and more and other things. This is just a cluster of 5 things that I can think about: your housing, your education, your present, and then of course your future investments and your retirement. All of them are looking at being funded from your current salary. Let's look at the housing plan. When you take a mortgage, remember, a mortgage is a 20 to 30 year plan. So you have to look at where you are at right now, and you need 20 years into your future to start thinking about this, to say, in the next 20 years, I need to be able to do this. And so sometimes people wait until it's too late. If you wait until it's too late, then you might be in a position where you are not able to have enough time, so the banks will squeeze you to 15 years or to 20 years. So don't wait until it's too late. Look at your employment and say, if I am 40 today, I have 20 years to age 60. So I cannot postpone this any longer. If I am 45, I got 15 years to age 60. So I'm going to have to pay off that mortgage in 15 years. And you remember that when you are 40, you don't only have the mortgage to worry about. You have all those other things you mentioned about. Your children are at the age where they need to be in secondary school. Your children are at the age where maybe they are going to tertiary school, or you have to think about it. So a lot of things come to mind at that moment. So a housing plan is something you must think about long term. So it's not just I've paid my mortgage for today. Like I mentioned, those who got shocked by the increase in the interest rate have had to find an extra 2,000 from somewhere just to keep up. So thinking and streamlining is absolutely important. If you're going to build, obviously you are thinking about allocation upfront resources right here, right now. How long is it going to take you to finish building your house? That is if you don't want to take a loan or a mortgage, okay? Maybe in the next presentation, we'll talk about the psychology of money, where we'll be able to examine people's psychology with debt, because a lot of people have a dysfunctional psychology when it comes to debt. They are afraid of debt for absolutely no reason, even though it could help them, but some love it too much and it ruins them. So there must be a balance in the psychology of debt when we look at that. So maybe in the future, one of the topics we will look at is how we should relate with all different financial products and the psychology that accompanies each product. Debt is a product. You need to think about it in a particular way and not be afraid of it or take too much of it. Otherwise, it might just ruin you. And other financial products, perhaps that is another topic we will look at. But it is important not to have a dysfunctional relationship with debt, but to see that if you're going to build from your pocket, as we like to say, I want to build from my pocket. you have to evaluate that and say, what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages? I actually do have a book that I've written called Mortgage Management Strategies. If you are thinking about buying or building, I'll have my email at the end of this presentation. You can email me and I can either give you a link to the book or give you or sell you a copy that you can look at. So if you're going to buy, the key is you must manage time and risk. Okay, 20 years is a long time. What are the risks associated with being in a transaction for 20 years? You have to think about it. Yes, you can qualify today and be given a bond today, but you don't know what your life's going to be like in 5 years, in 20 years, in 15 years time. So the risk of being in one transaction for too long, people who lose their homes to foreclosure, it's not because they are not smart. Some of the smartest people I'm sure you have seen, you have found their names in the matter between. And that is clearly because of the non-management of the risk period or the misidentification of the risk period, which is a very, very important thing to be able to identify so you can be able to deal with it. That is the housing plan. The education plan, well, it's not very different from that. Many parents have to think about this, the mix of public and private schooling. How much public schooling will I put my children through? How much private schooling will I put my children through? And how does that relate in terms of my finances? So you have to think about the cost of primary and the cost of secondary. You have to think about how do you plan to finance those things? Are you going to finance primary education from your pocket while you are saving for secondary education and tertiary education, or all of those things? And by pocket, I mean from your current salary, you know, because your primary can say, no, I can make a payment plan with the school right now, okay, and out of my salary pay that. But secondary education, remember the inflation cost or the education inflation is almost always higher than normal inflation. Schools just say, boop, 10%, 10%. Even if inflation is at 6%, they just go up 10%. So you just have to remember that. So you're going to save or you're going to use your salary. What is the cost of tertiary education per child today? Okay, are you going to use some investments combination with loans that you're going to take? Remember, if you are, let's say you are in your 50s right now and you have a younger child who will be in tertiary education when you are too old to get a loan. Okay, think about that. You're older right now, you have a smaller child, and by the time that child makes it to university, you will be out of the brackets of people to whom the banks can lend money. Remember, the banks will stop lending money at the age of 55 or so. When there's 5 years left in your employment, they stop lending you money. And so you have to look at your age and say, what time or at what age when I am what age will my child be entering secondary or tertiary education? Will I be able to take loans, or will the loans have to fall on the child themselves? And can I be able to provide surety for all of that? Okay. Remember again, to never ever forget the effect of inflation on your plan. And that is why you're almost always going to need a financial planner to help you with working all of these things. So the funding model, coming back again, is we look at the current lifestyle, we look at the assets, planning for holidays, current lifestyle, planning for additional projects that you can handle, building a home, building something for your mother, or at home, or doing whatever, that's current, and it all focuses on your current income. Your emergencies, an emergency happens. When it happens, it requires the money right here, right now, at this very moment. So the money for emergency must almost always be available, because when an emergency happens, then the money is required right there. Now, again, lifestyle. How many cars are you going to go through in the next 10 to 20 years? You have to think about that. At what rate will you be changing cars? Do you want to buy a car that's going to last you until all your children are through school, then you'll buy another one? Or you just want to keep up with the Joneses and buy a car every 3 years, every 5 years? It's up to you, but you have to think about all those things. And of course, household furniture requires a particular way of thinking. When you have children that are still growing up, you need to make sure that the kind of furniture that you are buying is not the kind of furniture that when the children write on it or jump on it, you're going to get upset. You must always be aware what where you are at in your cycle of life. Okay, if you're raising young children and you buy such expensive furniture that's gonna make you upset, you're just gonna live an happy life, because your children are children, and they are going to jump on furniture, write on walls. So think about these things very, very clearly. Secondary goals, the future. Let's talk about the future and the plan. How are we going to work this out? Okay. Now, let me go back to the implementation plan. Okay. Your emergency or basically risk planning. The financial planners and advisors always say you must have 3 to 6 months salary, excluding mortgage and life and disability. So you must have that account which just have. So if you earn 40,000, can you have 3 months is of 40,000 is 120,000. Can you have 120,000 sitting somewhere growing, raising money? That's an emergency fund. Okay. Now that's a bit of a stretch for some of us to think, I earn 40,000. Should I have, that much money sitting around? It's not just sitting around. It's preparing for those emergencies that may happen. There may be medical emergencies. The house may break down. The car may break down. Something may happen. Think about this. And I'm excluding, well, of course, there's excluding mortgage, because mortgage, I want to think about it differently. And then, of course, life and disability. Life cover, should I die, what happens to me? Should I be disabled, what happens to me? That gets included. That's the money that covers those areas. The second part, which is the mortgage and risk period planning. Risk period planning, I mentioned earlier already in this presentation that people who lose their houses to foreclosure, it's not because they were not smart. Nobody loses their house when everything is going fine. You lose your house because you have skipped payments for the past 3 months. And I always want to remind people, the bank only has a 3 months memory. The bank, it's a 3 months machine. They don't care whether you've been with them for 10 years or for 15 years. They only care what happened in the past 3 months. You skip for whatever reason, you skip your installments for 3 months. The system takes your account to legal, and legal takes your account further. And before you know it, you are in foreclosure because you skipped 3 months. Okay. So those of us who have houses that we are renting out and a tenant misses out on a month or 2 because there were some repairs or whatever, you could be near this kind of danger. So when you have a mortgage, we suggest that you have 6 months worth of savings set aside to cover that risk period. Should a tenant not pay, should something happen that you are not able to earn some income, whatever, or should you have some unexpected expenses where you have to divert your money to those important expenses, maybe medical emergencies, to the extent that you're not able to cover the mortgage, the bank counts. You miss 1, they just say 1. You miss 2, they say 2. You miss 3, your account is moved, beyond credit control into the legal department. That is how it works. Therefore, you need to be aware who are the players on your field, who is involved with you. Yes, we like banks. We work with banks. Okay, I don't know about like them. We work with banks. They are necessary evil in our lives, but they are part of the things that we need to do. So you need to plan, because even if you know the manager at the bank, remember the manager also works for the same system. And the manager will tell you the system has done this to you. So mortgages, I know that I may just be mixing up your psychology of money when it comes to taking mortgages, but I'm just saying this so that you may be prepared. Education planning, current costs, times inflation, time number of years required. Your child's tertiary education. If you want your child to have a 4-year degree, we start today. What is the cost today? What is the inflation rate growing at? When will they be in tertiary education? What will the cost of education be then? What should I do today to make sure that I meet that requirement? That is what we do in financial planning to help you to come up with those calculations. Your investment portfolio, I'm going to look at that a little bit, must be a mix of liquid and hard assets. Okay, sometimes a rule of thumb, they say your total portfolio must be at minimum 5 times your annual salary, which is semi-liquid. So if you earn 500,000 a year, Do you have 200? Do you have what, 500,000? Then you obviously have to have 2.5 million or so in investments. Okay, that's the way you have to think about it. It's just a way of thinking. These are the formulas. You don't have to have it now, but you have to plan to have it in whatever time frame that you need to think about it. 5 times your annual salary. And you're not talking about preparation for retirement. We're just talking about investment that will be able to help you in your life as your children grow and as you grow. Retirement planning, we look at your final salary. So say if you have 10 years to go, you have 50, you got 10 years to go, or you are 35, how many years? You got 25 years to go. What will your salary be on your last year? We go there and we multiply that by the percentage that you would like to receive when you retire. So we look at that and say maybe 70%, maybe 60%. And we drop that because hopefully your mortgage is paid, your children are out of school, you don't need as much money in your retirement as you did before you retire. So we put that into account. And then we look at your life expectancy, and then we figure out what is the capital required that you need to have to be able to live a comfortable life. So if you earn about half or 500,000 annually today, you are very likely to need about 10 million when you retire, very likely, based on the averages of the calculations I have done for many people. Somebody at 500,000 today is very likely they must have a retirement fund of 10 million. Now that 10 million doesn't have to be in the retirement fund itself, but there must be resources such as real estate or businesses that can produce that amount, about 10 million capital that you will need in retirement. That's basically some of the basic things that we need to do. And I'm just saying this so that you are aware, but you also remember you do need a financial planner to help you with all of these things. It's a lot of things to think about. So let's think about a portfolio. If you say I have a balanced portfolio, what should your portfolio look like? Okay, this is just a pie chart reflecting sort of on average a majority of people. A lot of people will have real estate and private equity. So if you look on the right of this pie, real estate and private equity just means your business, the amount of money that you put into your own business or things that make you some money. Now, if that is 100%, then you are missing out on the left side of this pie. So you'll see that on the left side, we have unit trust, we have cash, unit trust at 20%, cash at 20%, and protection or insurance at 10%, all right? So real estate, your house, and whatever else, house, plots, whatever, what is the value? So if you're saying I want a balanced portfolio, we'll suggest that yes, let not your entire portfolio be real estate. Let not your entire portfolio be cash. Let there be diversification in your portfolio. So if you have real estate and some business, do you have some cash or near liquid assets? Okay. Unit trust. I have this little on the left over here about unit trust, 20%. Inside unit trust, you are very likely to find equities, property, bonds, cash, derivatives. This is the buildup of unit trust. A unit trust fund is literally already diversified, depending on obviously who's advising you or what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve. Most unit trust funds will have percentages of equities, properties, bonds, cash, and certain derivatives within that. So you'll find that your unit trust portfolio is probably one of the most balanced portfolio when compared to all the rest of your other portfolio. So, and then of course you need that protection. Insurance, remember, life insurance is not an investment. It is a protection tool. Insurance for your car is not an investment. It's a protection tool. When you pay premiums to a funeral cover, it is not an investment. It is something to help you. It's a protection tool. So I don't want you to think, oh, I have these insurances. If they are life insurances, they are just to protect what you already have. When you do when we do estate planning, we also have to look into how much life insurance do you have, because life insurance can provide cash when you don't have cash, especially at the end when we do estate planning. So life insurance is absolutely important to protect everything that you do have. Without it, a lot of things could just fall apart at the end. And remember, life insurance is not going to pay you when you are alive. It pays after you are gone, but it takes care of a lot of things that you probably can't take care of right now. So that's a way to think about life insurance. And of course, short-term insurance, you pay, hopefully you never have to need it. But if somebody steals your car, then you are glad you paid. If somebody breaks into your house, you're glad you paid. Those are protection tools. But these are the ones, unit trust. And by cash, I don't mean cash in the bank. It will be liquid assets that are associated with either unit trust or money market accounts and all that stuff. So when you think about the balanced portfolio, and we think about pursuing your goals should also include how to balance your portfolio. What percentages of your money goes where? If you have too much going to real estate, maybe you should stop and say, what else should I do to take some to make sure that insurance-wise I'm protected, and unit trust-wise I am liquid enough to be able to do certain things for myself. So that is basically what a balanced portfolio talks to. Timelines. This will obviously be your own personal timelines, where you say, by such and such a date, I want to bring my budget under control. If currently your budget is out of control, money goes everywhere, you need to stop and say, when do I bring this thing under control? Okay, when do I fill my emergency fund? If you've decided that 2 times your salary is your emergency fund, or 3 times your salary is your emergency fund. If you earn 30,000, then that means 90,000 must be in your emergency fund. Then you plan, how long before I reach the goal of 90,000? That's basically what that is all. So you set a timeline and say, I'm gonna throw in 1,000 or 3,000 every month into this account until it reaches that which I call my emergency fund. And once that fund is filled, I don't send any more money into that. So the question is, how long is it going to take you today to reach the target of your emergency fund? Okay. Now, also you think about your mortgage risk period. I said mortgage, people don't lose their houses because they are not smart. They lose their houses because they don't have money in the mortgage protector fund. A mortgage protector fund is a fund that you're going to set up and say, if my mortgage is 10,000 per month and I want to have 6 months worth of installments, then I should be able to put it at 10,000. Somebody's mic is on. Somebody mute. Okay. If I have 10,000, if I'm paying 10,000 towards my mortgage, how long before I reach 60,000? So that should anything happen, I still have the money to pay up that, okay? And there are strategies that you can follow to make sure that your risk period is the period in which you have no money to pay. That's a risk period. And that happens to many people when they are between jobs. And how long you are between jobs and you are used to a paycheck to paycheck existence, when the paycheck stops, you are entering a risk period. But if you have money set aside to take care of that risk period, then obviously you are covered, all right? And if you are in debt, you need to set your goal and say, by when will I get out of debt or bring my debt situation under control? Some debts are good, some debts are not so good. Mortgage is a 20-year debt, okay? So I'm obviously not talking about getting rid of it that quickly, unless you want to. If you want to get rid of it very quickly, there are plans that we can use to be able to help you to get out of it much faster, but nothing else should suffer as a result of that particular goal. So goals must work together. So bringing debt under control, especially if you have credit card debts or consumer debt in general, you need to bring those under control because they are really, really expensive kind of debts, and you cannot have huge amounts of consumer debt and be successful at the same time. It just doesn't work because consumer debt is like a bloodsucker that's going to take your money away from you. And so you need to be very careful in choosing which debt you are in and how you control that. And of course, your future investments, by when will I want, and if you have a project that you want to run, you also set a date and say, I need to have so much, I need to, in the next, if I'm building, out of my pocket, as we like to say, then be aware that it might take you 3 years to finish the house. Don't rush it in such a way that other areas of your life start suffering. Be realistic and say, I want this house. It's currently costing the bill of quantity, say I need 300,000. And by the look of things, unless I get a bonus or something, it's going to take me 3 years to build. Can I build this house in phases? Can I do phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3 until the house is complete to be what it needs to be? Life requires planning. And without that kind of planning, you are not going to be able to reach the goals that we are talking about today. So remember, we're talking about setting and pursuing financial goals. Each one of these things, these circles that I have here, are a particular goal that you can set. Budget under control, emergency under control, mortgage risk management, risk period management under control, debts, bring those under control. The future, how much are you putting away for your retirement into that particular investment? In terms of your legacy assets, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? So these are little blocks that you need to think about when you're setting goals. And remember, all of these goals require money from you today. They are looking at that salary. So it is that salary that will have to be broken down into pieces to be able to reach that. So how do we get there? Okay, so we get there by a monthly budget. Okay, that one, you can't dodge a monthly budget. Okay, so you work with your monthly budget to say, out of this budget, this is the income I'm getting today, and I'm going to apportion so much towards my emergency fund, so much towards short-term insurance, so much towards my long-term insurance, so much towards my current life. So we normally say over here, your ratio of today's expenses. If you remember one of the presentations about FIRE, of financial independence and retire, people who are able to reach those kind of goals of retiring early, they spend the first few years living on about 50 to 60%, not more than that. That means their current expenses do not exceed 50 to 60%, and the 40% is allocated according to the other things I'm talking about of here, your future expenses. Okay, inevitable future expenses such as school fees, planning for upcoming projects, control your debts. And I have control your debts today and tomorrow because some debts run into tomorrow. And so you need to be able to always keep your eye on those things. So if you are living on 50% to 60%, then the 40% is allocated towards future expenses such as school fees for your children. Then you are able also to think about how much should go towards my investment budget. So keeping a focus on a fully funded retirement fund, can I reach the 10 million that I require to be able to function in retirement without having to go exchange time for money? Unless, of course, I want to continue working until I die. It's okay. Most people would like to reduce their hours or change, or finally just sell their business and stop exchanging time for cash. So depending on what your goals are, you need to think about those things. Growing a balanced portfolio takes time. It takes time. It may be 500 a month at a time. So if I'm thinking 500 per month, then obviously at the end of the year, how much will I have? Maybe I just have 60,000. Can I keep that? Can I do that into the second year, into the third year? What will 6,000, what will 500 do for me in the next whatever? So, when we count money on the stock exchange, we use tabs, okay, or cents, because every tab counts. So if you've watched the news, they will say such and such a share has gone up by 5 tebe. That is a very important principle to remember, is that every tebe counts. And that is how money is counted on the stock exchange, for example. Okay, so you also have to remember to be fully protected. Life and disability cover and other insurances are part of that, maybe that 10%, because just because we don't know what's going to happen to us tomorrow, it's absolutely important that we are always protected. So you cannot, life insurance is one of those things that when you need it, it had better be there. And unfortunately, you don't know when you're going to need it. So you are always protected, and then you go on with your life. So we start with life insurance and property insurance, and then you are protected and you are able to move on with a peace of mind to be able to continue to do that. So how do we get there? We take today's income and we break it up into today, which is short term today, medium term. Medium term is when I'm funding the future, near future expenses like secondary education and tertiary education, depending how old you are. Some are still far, for some that's a medium term. And then long term, how to fund your investment portfolio and how to fund your retirement and all of that stuff. And remember, the future happens today. Your income, today's income, must pay for the future. It's not going to happen on its own out there. Now, nearing the closing over here, I think we'll have some time for some questions and comments. Remember, it doesn't matter how much money you make. It matters how much you keep and grow. So don't live like there is no tomorrow. Doesn't matter how much you make. You can make a lot today, but if you can't keep it, then tomorrow will just be like today, because you're going to make it and live paycheck to paycheck, finish it. What if you can't make it tomorrow? So we always think about, what if I can't make it tomorrow? Let there be today's money tomorrow to take care of my responsibilities. So in summary, money is fungible. What do we mean by money is fungible? Money can do whatever you want it to do. There's no, so when I say, budget for a particular thing, it doesn't mean you can't take that money to do something else, as long as tomorrow you are able to replace that. That's what we mean by money is fungible. Okay, it can do whatever you want it to do. Money supports and follows the character of its owner. If you want to know where your money goes, check your own character. And when we talk about the psychology of money, it looks like it's a topic that we will cover very soon. We're going to have to look at a person's character compared to how their money works, because money supports the character of its owner. Financial goals are a way of you taking charge of your money. If you don't set goals, okay, we say money can be a very good servant, but a very terrible master. It will serve you if you send it to where you want it to go. And setting a goal is about directing your money to send it where you want it to go. If you say, my money, I need you to go do this for me, it will do. It follows instructions and it follows direction. But the question is, are you able to give your money direction, or your money comes into your account and disappears because there are so many masters giving it instruction or giving it direction, other people coming to give your money whatever direction they wanted to go, and you let that happen. So to be in charge is to bring back your money into your own control. Budgeting is part and parcel of financial controls. It may look like a tedious little thing that you do, but once you set it up, your monthly budget and your annual budget, I always encourage people, don't just do monthly budgets, do an annual budget. Know what you are going to accomplish this year or the next 12-month cycle and the next 24 or 36 months cycle. So have a 3-year budget, a 5-year budget. And so you know that you can set it up in such a way that in 3 years' time, if you continue to contribute $500 towards this particular unit trust, how much will it be? You can predict and you can say, therefore, in 3 years' time, this is what I would like to do with my money. And remember, don't live like there is no tomorrow, because tomorrow, which is set to never come, Haha, always comes. Thank you so very much. That is all I have to say to you right now. If you have further questions, I got emails there, nelson@moedi.net, life@firstsun.co.bw. There's my mobile number there. And of course, we got our website there. That little QR code is where you can find my books on the Amazon platform. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say to us today. Charles, I give back to you.
No, thank you so much, Mr. Nelson. Thank you so much for that enlightening lecture. I think before I can reflect, we'll just open the floor to any of our members or doctors to ask any question or to comment or make reflections or just to get any clarity in terms of what has been said. I do not see any comments from the chat box, but please do feel free to unmute your mic and ask away. Is there anyone with any question, comment, or any reflection, or anything? I noticed that when it comes to this financial talks, our members tend to be very, very silent. I'm not sure the reasoning why. Maybe we need to do some form of, engagement in the form of a survey. I do note that also attendance tends to be on the lower side. I'm also not sure why. And this can just help us in terms of improving, because everything you said today, Mr. Nelson, resonates very well. Of course, there are some things that may be individualized, but majority of what you said, I mean, everything that you spoke about can relate it very well. And I think in my individual sessions with you, I've mentioned how, thinking forward financially has become very difficult for example, for myself, because now it's not just today, like you're saying, there's also tomorrow and the following week, the following year, as well as when you retire. And there has to be a balance. You did show a pie chart. There has to be a balance, We have things that we take out and people have assumed those are investments. I mean, some people will think taking a funeral cover as an investment. Somebody thinks taking a life cover as an investment or car insurance as an investment. But as you rightfully spoke, I see there's somebody who has to the mic.
Yeah, hi.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, my name is Buinelo. And I feel like most of us shy away from talking about financial issues because it comes late in our career as doctors to think about our retirement, our savings and everything. All the time we've been thinking biology, physics, that, drugs, that. But asking from a position of a government employee who's in a lot of debts, that looking forward, reflecting on them, they were just stupid debts like personal loans and stuff like that. How does one plan getting out of debt with having to go through school? Because we do know doctors their first degree is not the final degree. They may have to go 3 or 4 degrees before the career starts having any financial reward to themselves financially. So how does one plan all that? And life is also coming up. You have kids, you have to pay for school fees, you have to marry, you have to do all these other things. Yeah, thank you. I hope the question makes sense.
Absolutely, makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. Yes, just to jump onto it, I see that Ufens also has a question, but let me answer yours there. Rabinel. You start where you are at, and it's a very good idea to have a financial planner or somebody, some financial advisor to help you, because it's one thing to say, I'm in debt, I want to clear it, but you can't just clear it because life goes on. You have other expenses that are going on. So you have to find a systematic way of slowly but surely getting out of the bad kind of debt. And even as you continue to go into either good debt or some investments as well. I am of the opinion that because time doesn't stand still, you can't say all my money for the next year is going towards clearing debt and I'm going to stop all investing. You have to invest and deal with debt. So it's about reaching a certain balance that allows you to do it, and be aware that protection is part of the deal. If I took the kind of debt that doesn't have protection, then I should obviously have protection to make sure that should anything happen, I don't lose what I already have at this moment. So it's going to be a systematic way of trying to deal with that, even while you are continuing to save. Because the idea that which may be mathematically correct to say interest on debt is higher than interest on savings. Mathematically, it is correct. But the psychology of money demands that even as you weaken the muscle of debt, you must strengthen the muscle of investing. And so you must get used to both sides and trying to keep it balanced. So in a nutshell, that's what it is. And I think navigating this does require some help from the money professionals to make sure that you stick on the path. And it's not just this month. So if we start the plan, we have to follow it up. Maybe meet every quarter, even if 15 minutes on Zoom to say, are we still on track? Are we still on track? You know, next year, are we still on track? So it's one of those things. It's like those, long, as doctors, you know how to follow up on long diseases like TB that takes a lot of time, but the patient must be kept up with the medication. Same way, you know, our clients in the financial planning space, if you are dealing with a thing that's going to take time, we need to keep up with you over time to make sure that within 2-3 years, you are out in the plane, able to focus again into the future. I hope that helps, but we will definitely look into the psychology of money as a topic in the future. So I don't know if that answers you. If it does, Ufense, you can make your comment, because I see your hand is up as well.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Nelson. It was a very informative talk. My question, or rather say a question. So I think for most of us who come from a poor background, our delay or financial burden mostly is what we call black tax. So once you start working, you look back and say, I have to go back home and fix this and that. That's delaying your plans or your goals. So you have to, for the first 3 or so years, you have to be trying to improve the status back home. And then afterwards, you have siblings mostly siblings who will need your financial aid and trying to get this and that done. So with that, then you get your goals, self-goals delayed. You have to delay family. We have to delay going back to do your masters and all that. So my question is, how do we get to deal with the black tax? How do we get to balance your goals and family? Because, we grow up being told we are looking forward, you are the star of the family, we are putting all this on you that you're going to be able to help us get out of this. And we would want to do that, but we also have lives that we are trying to push our goals. And how do we get to balance the two? Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I hear the black tax issue is a really issue that we need to deal with. You mentioned 2 to 3 years. 2 to 3 years is fine. My biggest problem is those who get stuck with black tax for too long. Okay, and you know, just like if somebody comes to you and gives you symptoms, right now you're giving me symptoms, and I'm gonna have to say, come in for a full checkup, because this is a public platform, and it's absolutely important. Do not underestimate an hour with a financial planner. Just get it, okay? We give it. We are here in partnership with the Doctors Union as First Son. We'll give that for free. We'll sit down, we'll assess, we'll write you a report for free, just because you are a member of the Doctors Union. And you can take that report and see how to implement that, however way you want to implement it. So black tax, it's something that we're probably gonna have to have a full topic on it, on how to deal with it. But it is not a thing that we can dodge, but it is a thing that you cannot be in it for too long. Okay, you can't ignore your life for too long, otherwise you're gonna lag behind. So I'm gonna be like a doctor here and say, please come in for a full checkup.
Okay, thank you.
Great, yes, give us a call. That's the numbers and the emails there. Well, definitely, I'd love to give each one of you as time allows. And I've got a lot of support with at First and lots of other financial planners who can help us. Sit down, look at your plans, look at your life. Let's give you, walk out of there with a financial report that you can look at and think about, and we can also help you to implement that with time.
All right. I think there isn't any more questions or comments. I think I would like to ask Mr. Nelson if whenever it's possible, can the next talk be centered around black tax? I know it's a very broad and very difficult topic, but I think it's one which a lot of doctors would really, or even just people in general, would really love to hear from. So I think, Mr. Nelson, you'll just let us know when we can do a talk on that. But I don't see any more comments. I do note that a lot of people have said that your presentation today, as always, has been on point, and they appreciate it a lot. We will be sharing this is a recorded session, so we'll be definitely sharing this link with everyone, including you, Mr. Nelson, in case you want to relook. But otherwise, at this juncture, let me just use this opportunity. I see Mr. Chitate is there. I don't know if you would like to say a word or two. Our managing director partner.
Where am I? Good afternoon.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Staten.
You can hear me? Okay, good.
Yes.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much, Nelson, for a good presentation. Thank you, BDU, for hosting us again. It's always a pleasure being in this partnership. Just to add in, there is a comment which was brought in to say we are old to participate on financial planning because we started late. There is never late as far as financial planning is concerned. Please, I actually want to complain that the Doctors Union is not making full use of First Son. Our role is there to have a game with you guys. Let's have every month, like what Nelson has said, every quarter, you must review your plan. Come and sit down with us. Let's see what you have got already in hand. You might find that you are already over-mortgaged, which we must review and reschedule. This debt rescheduling exercise is a very, very important aspect. Black checks, we don't want you to be not in love with your families, but at times, there's times when you need to be good to yourself and find out what is important in your life. It was a duty for our families to support us coming up. It is our duty now to see what is more important for us going forward. So there's a time when you must come out of black checks, and you must make sure that if you don't, then you will actually be putting your life and your family in debt forever. Otherwise, that is the comment I have. Thank you very much, Charles, for this successful exercise that we always go on with. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, Mr. C. Let me just use this opportunity to thank First Sun yet again for being our partner when it comes to insurance and financial literacy, and for taking this opportunity on a Sunday to present to our members. We gratefully appreciate this service. And from the BDU, I guess, executive, it's a thank you to all that have attended today's presentation. Please do let us know, whether personally or publicly, if there's anything else we can do to improve the sessions, both from the First Sun perspective as well as from our members' perspective. But otherwise, it's a good Sunday from us, and bye-bye.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all for your attention. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.